What's going on, YouTube? Ferocity. I hope you guys are doing well. I know I'm late to the whole Hex Scump sue Activision thing, but that's because I've been extremely busy. Lots has been going on in my personal life, so haven't been able to keep up with the news as much as I'd like to. But I thought it was necessary to cover this because, well, we're a Call of Duty channel here. But I also think I have a little bit of a different take and stance on this than maybe what you've seen out there. So, for those of you that don't know, because you've been living under a rock, or I'm the only Call of Duty YouTuber you watch, if that's the case, thank you. I don't know why, but thank you. Hex and Scump are two very big names in the Call of Duty community. Hex is the owner of Optic, and Scump used to be the best player on Call of Duty. I mean, he probably still is, but from a professional standpoint, he is the GOAT. He's done everything, and he's been just absolutely incredible his entire career. He stepped away last year, partly because MW2 sucked, but also probably because he wanted to just not have to worry about playing competitive Call of Duty because it is an absolute tire fire. So I've always been curious as to why Activision hasn't tried to pump up the CDL more, make it a more attractive esport so people want to watch it and they can kind of coattail off of the success of Call of Duty. I mean, as much as I rag on the game losing players, you still have 500,000, maybe a little over 500,000 players that probably play Call of Duty every single day. You need to be able to tap into that for a core fan base. And they haven't been able to do that whatsoever. It has been an absolute gong show with the way they've tried to integrate CDL into Call of Duty. I mean, outside of a few skins, you don't really even know the CDL exists within their own game, which is shocking. So when I found out about this lawsuit, I mean, the number they're asking for, millions of dollars, is preposterous. But the idea that Call of Duty needs to at least give up control of a competitive Call of Duty league is fair. And honestly, that should be the focus of this entire lawsuit, is give up control of a Call of Duty league. Give up control of esports for Call of Duty being handled by Activision. They're incompetent. We talk about it all the time, and it's extremely apparent with the CDL. I mean, most people, whenever I put out a CDL video, don't care. They're like, nope, next. Yet I've been around long enough within the Call of Duty community to remember when Call of Duty had a massive esports following. I mean, anybody remember the Black Ops 2 COD champs? That was incredible. How they have made it worse over time, I mean, part of it's the game, but how they've made the experience over time somehow worse is shocking. It is honestly an achievement to tank your esports league this badly. Like, they should get a Lifetime Achievement Award for making something so irrelevant to their community of hundreds of thousands of people. It's more so a joke. And honestly, this is one of those things where Activision should just cut their losses. There's been rumors for years now that they've been trying to phase out the CDL. And honestly, it makes sense, and maybe that's what they should do. And maybe this lawsuit is the right stepping stone for them to say, hey, you know what? It is too much of a hassle. It is too much work. It is too much of an undertaking for us to fund it and to control it. Here, you guys do it. And honestly, I think we'd see something a lot better. A lot better. And honestly, I think there's a foundation there that you can build upon and that you can take advantage of what these guys can actually do, because they all have their own separate followings. I mean, one of my favorite pros is Octane, and you can build off of what he has, and he can bring his audience over and say, hey, watch me, look at my screen the entire time, or do something unique and different that's not the same tired presentation that we've seen for, 5 years now? There's a better way to broadcast esports, especially for Call of Duty, and I think that these creators can do something with it. They can make something better. And that's the outcome I'm hoping for from this, is that Call of Duty can relinquish control over the entirety of the esports world for Call of Duty. And I think people are having a tough time wrapping their heads around just how important it is for Call of Duty pros and for just this space to have some autonomy, to separate itself from Activision and Call of Duty and create its own thing. And I think a lot of us don't really understand the trials and tribulations that esports players go through, because we look at esports and we want to try to correlate it to regular sports. The difference is the medium for the sport is totally different than an esport, right? Somebody owns the intellectual property for Call of Duty, and it's Activision, it's Microsoft. But nobody owns the sport football. Nobody owns the sport of basketball. There's leagues that utilize the sport as a catalyst for their league. That's what they do. And what would be nice to see is Call of Duty operate similar to how football operates, or baseball, or whatever, and say, hey, we want to take Call of Duty as the catalyst of our league, but we want to make it our own. We want to take aspects of this game, take the game, and just make it ours. Make our league representing Call of Duty, but it not be associated with Activision. I hope that makes a little bit more sense. These Call of Duty pros, they don't want to adhere to everything Activision wants, because there's a lot of little nitpicky things Activision does. I mean, heck, they fine Scump for trash talking. There's certain things you just can't do. They have an overseeing mandate that they push upon their players. And I really think that for Call of Duty to get better from a competitive standpoint, there needs to be a little bit more freedom for the creators. There needs to be more freedom for the pros. And shedding the shackles of Activision would potentially create more growth for competitive Call of Duty. And that's what they're arguing here. Yes, the number, like I said, is preposterous. But I think the argument at its core is a great idea. Because I think Call of Duty competitively should be bigger. And it should have a bigger following. And honestly, should be making more money. And it should be making these professional teams more money. As much as I rag on Call of Duty, it's a profitable, very profitable company. And it's a very profitable game franchise. It's because it has a massive following. It has a lot of loyal fans. But the fact that the competitiveness of Call of Duty from a professional league standpoint is so poor is 100% because Activision has been holding it back. There is a massive opportunity being wasted here. And I think that's what needs to be highlighted with this lawsuit. Nothing more. You can talk about the number if you want. I don't really care about the number. The number does not matter. What matters here is that the pros should get their own autonomy from Activision. They should not have to be slaves to Activision anymore. And honestly, that's the only path forward for competitive Call of Duty. It needs to move away from being Activision controlled. Because I think that these creators would then bet on themselves a little bit more, take a little bit more initiative, utilize and leverage their creativity to create something unique and better than what we have now. Because honestly, if you look at Call of Duty and you look at their priorities, the CDL probably doesn't crack the top 10. Like, I just don't think it does. But for these pros, if they're creating their own league and they're funding it and they've got to make sure it works, that's number one on their priority list, man. That's their main focus. And that'll create a better experience for everyone involved. The players, the teams, and most of all, the fans. So that's been my take on this lawsuit situation between Activision and Scump and Hex. And honestly, I'm very curious to see how it all figures itself out. I don't know why I was struggling to find a word there. But anyways, that's it for this video. I think I just gotta take a little bit of a break. My brain's a little fried. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.